everyone. Welcome back to Halfway to Healing. I'm Shana.
And I'm Sam, and today's episode is a little bit more personal in celebration of Pride Month. I'm sharing my coming out story. Not just the one moment where I said the words out loud, but the long, messy, and at times beautiful process of becoming myself.
We often hear about coming out as a one-time thing, like it's a milestone you check off, but in reality, it's layered. It's ongoing. It's shaped by fear, freedom, grief, joy, and for many people's survival.
So in this episode, I'm going to reflect on what it was like to come out as non-binary and bisexual, and how it changed my relationships, my sense of home, and how I'm kind of still figuring it all out, because coming out doesn't fix everything, but it definitely gave me space to breathe.
So whether you're out, questioning, or holding space for someone you love, this one's for you.
Coming out.
All right.
That's so wild.
Right.
It's been over a year now. I came out on March 3rd. 2024.
Oh my gosh, so it's been about 14, 15 months now.
Yeah.
Wow. So would you like to talk about, I think I might start with like an age progression. Mm-hmm. So when you came out, I guess, the first time with your, in regards to sexuality.
Yep.
Would you mind sharing a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I identify as bisexual. I always kind of knew, though.
Right.
And I actually never formally came out with my sexuality.
Okay.
I never sat my parents or anyone down and went, hey, I like guys, but I also like girls. I was very lucky in terms of my sexuality that I didn't feel it was necessary.
Right.
I grew up, my parents, for all their flaws, have always let me know that it doesn't matter who I come home with.
Right.
I always knew that if I came home with someone of the same gender, or I came home with someone of the opposite gender, it was never going to be a problem. I always knew. So my coming out is I realized quite young. I had a crush on Katara from Last Airbender. True story.
Very nice.
And yeah, a lot of it was through crushes that I had on television. People I was watching in television, and seeing that, not necessarily queer relationships, but kind of inserting myself into queer relationships with the people that I was watching on television. And my friends in high school, I also never felt the need to come out to. It comes up for me pretty much only in a, am I interested in you way?
Right.
And mostly just to find out if, especially with people, especially with women, do you, as someone who is a little bit more feminine presenting, at least now, and, growing up with a feminine identity, I had to double check that the person I was interested in would also be interested in me. So that's kind of only, the only times it ever really came up for me. Okay. I remember once, though, when I was in high school, one of my friends at the time, she found out somehow, I have no idea, and asked me about it, and I went, oh, yeah, I'm into girls, and she freaked. She was like, oh, please don't be please don't be attracted to me.
Oh my gosh.
Are you, and actually stop being my friend over it.
Everyone has a type.
Right. And yeah, that's the only friendship that I've lost because of it, actually.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but it was she very much freaked out about it, and but yeah, always kind of knew. Probably Google. This was a long time ago. Probably Googled it to figure out what it was, so that I had some kind of sense of my identity. But it's never been something that I've never spent a lot of time questioning. I've never really had to come out for, because I'm around people who just don't care about it, but it's an indifferent. It's just, oh yeah, okay, Sam.
It's just oh, Sam's bi.
Sam's bi,
Okay. Have you ever faced, in a relationship, if you've been in a relationship with, say, a girl or a boy, that do you ever get, I feel like there's a common or a stereotypical I'm going to say assumption because I myself am not bi, but I feel like I've heard like stereotypes where you're with someone and they're like, oh, just pick one, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being in, I mean, I've only dated 3 people.
Okay, yep.
2 of which were hetero-presenting relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often I've had this problem where either it's dismissed entirely because I've been with a man, or kind of fetishized.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. What?
Where like, oh yeah, like you want to have threesomes, or like,
right.
yeah. So that's like my experience. I've also had people tell me that because I've spent most of my life in relationships, a lot of them have assumed that a lot of people have assumed I've picked a side.
Right.
That's obviously not the case.
Yeah.
But it is hard, and a lot of people do like have told me, oh, you know, because when I was dating men, there was a lot of this, well, you're not really bisexual because you've never dated a woman.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced anything like that since I started dating a woman.
Okay.
But also I'm not surrounded by dickheads.
Yeah.
Anymore.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
But since being in a very lesbian presenting relationships, I do have more issues in public than
really?
I did. Yeah.
It's crazy to me how in like 2025, how like homophobia is still a thing, you know? Like, my goodness, let people be happy. As long as it's not like some weird like underage like thing, you know, as long as there's not like a child, do what you want, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Did that kind of answer your question?
It really did.
Okay, cool.
It did. Yeah. Tell us more about, I guess I want to say your second coming out.
Second coming out. My gender.
Gender coming out. Yeah, that's a better way to phrase it. Your second coming out.
So this was a lot more of a process for me. And it really freaked me out because with my sexuality, I just knew. Yeah. I did not just know that I was non-binary. I did not know that I was trans. No inkling in the world. Like, it hit me like a stack of bricks one night. And I was really freaked out by it. I was cleaning my dishes and my brain was like, I'm not a woman. I was like, what kind of a thought is this? What? And it really, really freaked me out. And I, like, the next day I was in a eating sort of recovery group at the time, and I went to the facilitators. I'm really freaked out by this thought. Help me. But a lot of the reason I didn't know is more because I didn't have the language. Like, when I did my my identity exploration for my gender, there was so many things from my childhood.
Oh, really?
I didn't play with Barbie. I didn't want to play with Barbie. A lot of these like very feminine,
not the stereotypical female.
But I didn't want dresses made me really uncomfortable. You know, like so many typically feminine branded female things were very much I was not interested in, or I had a disgust for. I know we actually were talking about this before we started recording, but a lot of the idea of motherhood just doesn't. I've never wanted to be pregnant. You know, all of these things about being a woman, and I would say that all these things don't just make you a woman. It's a lot more complicated than that. But societally speaking, make you a woman. I was not interested in or physically disgusted by it. And I realize now that that's probably because of the fact that I am trans and don't feel aligned with that gender. So constantly having these things forced upon me. I remember once in high school, I was wearing pants. That's very important for this story.
Okay.
I'm sitting at this table. There's a table, like a little coffee table in the middle of the library. There's me and about 5 other guys sitting at this table, all with our legs up on the table in this back of the chair. And this teacher walks up to me and goes, Sam, put your legs down. It's not very ladylike.
Nobody asked for your opinion.
And this comment just disturbed me.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. Firstly, I mean, our school uniforms were skirts and dresses.
Oh, okay.
And
wow.
had I been wearing a skirt or a dress, I probably would have been like, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But I was also wearing pants, and I was the only one singled out for something that's everyone can put
like
their
none
legs
of the
on.
guys were, you know, just you.
But it was a process, and there was a lot of there was something that I later turned out was gender envy that I was seeing in a lot of other trans people that I was around, and this idea of being free really stuck with me. And I worked with a counselor because I genuinely was freaked out by the thought that I wasn't a woman. And we talked it out and we talked it through, and I did a lot of exploring. Like I explored using Sam as my name with a bunch of people that I didn't know, I'd never met. I just introduced myself as Sam, and explored using they them pronouns. And as I did that kind of exploration and experimentation, I realized how much more comfortable I felt in using them.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and then I came out, and I decided to just rip the Band-Aid off and do it with everybody all at once.
Yeah.
I think I spoke about this in an earlier episode where it was like after I got back from Sydney, my birthday, I just kind of came back, was seeing everybody and went, by the way, it's Sam now, they, them. And that was kind of me coming out. But even since then, like I still explore parts of my gender and my identity because there's still things that I don't understand or thoughts that I have that are a bit spooky. But that was terrifying for me. How people were going to react, whether or not people would get on board. Like it was very different to me and my sexuality.
Yeah. So was there sort of a moment for you when something was there a moment for you when something sort of clicked? Anything that sort of helped you understand and find the language for this, I guess, this thing you were searching for?
I definitely had some like friends and people in my life that helped. But I think the biggest thing was the counseling that I did. Like they helped me really find the language. I actually did a workbook. I've spoken about this before. I love homework. I worked through this workbook where it asked me questions about my childhood, which is why I knew all that stuff before. Gave me and this workbook had a lot of the language in it. Like at the very beginning, it explains like all of the different, not even all, but a lot of the different like non-binary, like what's transgender, what's a trans woman, what's a trans man, what's androgynous, what's two-spirit, like all of these terms that I'd never even heard of before. As a way to describe gender. Like there's gender queer, gender questioning, like there's all of these terms that I just never ever ever even heard of before. And it defined them, and it went through in such detail all of these things, and that was incredibly helpful. And then when I didn't understand something, I had, you know, some friends in my life that I could ask and helped me with that, but also I could ask the counselor and get, you know, and we could work through it together. And I think that the language was really important for me to understand who I was. And having those different, both kind of more formal support systems with the counseling, but also informal supports really helped. I did try to stay off Googling things on the internet. Mostly because I didn't want false information. But also I didn't want to end up in spaces that were actually harmful for me. Now, I'm not saying that you can't use the internet. The internet is a wonderful tool, but if you are using the internet to explore, this is for our listeners. If you are using the internet to explore like identity or sexuality or anything in the LGBTQ plus community, I would absolutely err on the side of caution. I know there are some groups and things that say that they're these friendly spaces, but really they're not. They're quite harmful. But I was also lucky enough to have people in my life that I knew were safe places and safe people to talk through this with. And if you don't have that, then by all means, you know, go to the internet, but just be really careful with what you're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you said earlier with regards to your gender expression, coming out with that was a bit more scary. Whereas with your sexuality, it was just like, oh yeah, so, you know?
Yeah.
Why, like, coming from a cisgendered female, I guess, how did people react? Because I guess I like to think that the world is less prejudiced as it used to be, but obviously there's still some small-minded people out there. How were you, like, was there, I guess, some fear around certain people and how they would react when you were going to come out?
Look, I was very fortunate that everyone reacted pretty much, hey, we still love you.
That's good.
There were two things that I was most fearful of. The first one being my parents.
Right.
And not because they'd ever done any inkling of, like, we wouldn't accept you, but I think because they chose my dead name, they'd known me this whole time as somebody else, I was really fearful that they wouldn't be able to see that I was still me.
Yeah, it's still the same person, you know.
And also, obviously, changing my name. Now, just to sidetrack a little bit, I actually still picked a name that was something that they had input on. Sam is basically the other name that they were going to pick for me anyway. And I did that to honor. I didn't do that just for them. I did that mainly for me, but it just happens that it also honors them and their choices. And the other really big scary thing for me was clients.
Right.
I was really worried about clients. In fact, probably more so than my parents. But I was really worried that clients would constantly dead name me, that they would not want to work with me anymore. But I think, again, it's something in being vulnerable that they saw that I was just being me, and they all got on board. I didn't lose any clients. I was very fortunate. Not everyone has that experience, but I was very, very fortunate.
Yeah, and I know working with you, a lot of your clients are of, like, that boomer generation, where I feel like there's still quite a certain mindset with regards to, like, gender and sexual identity.
I think it helps. I work with healthcare professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I like to imagine that healthcare workers are compassionate and understanding because that's the field that they're in. But yeah, it turned out really well for me. I'm incredibly lucky about that, though. Yeah. You know, incredibly, incredibly lucky.
So what was the hardest part for you for coming out? Whether that be, like, emotionally or practically or both, you know?
I think
Bit of a tough question.
I think the hardest part is because I'm non-binary, I have to constantly come out.
Right.
I think that's the hardest part. I have to constantly correct people on my pronouns. I have to constantly tell people that these, like, because it's not the standard. And I think that's actually the hardest part. I almost feel like I have to justify my existence every time I meet a new person. And that's really difficult. I can't just walk around, you know, and just, I mean, I can walk around and be me, but I just feel there's a little bit of, like, resistance with, you know, the fact that every time I talk to someone, I have to be like, hey, I'm non-binary, whereas, you know, there's no, at least in my mind, no way that, at least at this stage, that I can pass as non-binary. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know, but I think that's the hardest part. Do you want to go one more question?
Oh, gosh.
I know.
Ooh. What has your life been like since coming out? Like, in regards to, like, just your growth and how have you felt? Do you feel like this more sort of, I guess, genuine version of yourself? Do you feel like you finally are, like, able to be who you really are? Like, big arm expressions.
I am so much more confident in who I am.
That's great.
And so the way that I connect with people, I think, is a lot more authentic. I don't feel like I'm hiding. And that, again, is something I'm really lucky for. I know some people realize that they're trans or that they're queer and don't have the safety in the people in their lives to be able to be their authentic self. I also think I'm really grateful. I think I extend a lot of gratitude because I have that freedom. So yeah, just to sum that up, I'm more confident, I'm more genuine, I connect better, and I'm much more grateful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just one more little thought before we sign off. Do you have any, I guess, how can, I guess, people in your life, like friends, partners, allies, like me, how can any way that these type of people are able to show up better for someone that comes out, someone that's thinking of coming out, someone that's just sort of questioning some stuff?
I think just respecting someone. It's such a basic human thing, but I think I know I felt a lot of disrespect in my like decisions and things like that, and just respecting someone, even if you don't understand the language or the pronouns or whatever, just respect. Just if someone says that they want to use a different pronoun to what you are used to, respect them in that decision. You don't have to understand why, you don't have to understand what they're going through, but you can absolutely respect them in their choices. And I think that's really all you can do. You can lend an ear, you can do what you can, but just respect people. I know I'm very different to how I was, but not because of my identity, but because I've healed and I'm healing. I'm not healed, but I'm healing, and that's why I'm different to who I used to be. It has nothing to do with the fact that I came out. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm non-binary or that I'm bisexual. And just honoring the person and respecting them.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Anytime.
Little spiel?
Next episode. Do you want to do socials while I find the next episode?
Sure. So we have an Instagram. It is halfway to healing with little underscores between like each space, I guess, halfway _ healing. Like, comment, and subscribe. That is non-negotiable. You have to. Check out our website if you're not listening to it. If you're not listening to this on the website already, you might be listening on YouTube. But if you haven't, we are halfwaytohealing.com.
And next episode, we're going to talk about eating disorders.
The
many faces of eating disorders and what our life has been like since diagnosis. That's a fun episode. But yeah, tune in, and thank you so much. Pardon?
I feel like it's going to be a big episode.
Oh yeah. And thank you so much for listening, and have a good week.
Have a good week, everyone.